Okay, well my case study is an interesting one because I think like all young Australian men, I grew up learning to work hard, to do the right things in life and, you know, find something that you were good at and to pursue it. I had a great close family, so I had these values and things that were entrenched in me. And I grew up in the surf club and I watched and I saw how the great competitors seemed to get all the great things. You know, the guys that were winning seemed to get a lot. So I built this real desire to be a winner and to go fast and to actually conquer something. So long story short is that down the track a little bit, I've become this Australian and world Ironman champion who never really had any major signs that I was going to be able to achieve that. So it's an interesting story the way it unfolds because all of a sudden I'm at the top of my field. So now with the way I saw things, I saw it as very much a body and a mind thing. You know, you're determined, you get to the top and then you get all the rewards. It was almost a lot of thinking and a lot of hard work. So when I came across Keith, I was actually sent to him and it was because I was collapsing. My shoulder was collapsing, my hip was collapsing, my arch was collapsing, everything. I was in constant aching and pain and I was having anti-inflammatories and icing and TENS machines and constant on antibiotics and that was all the best of what I suppose I'd been exposed to in Western medicine at the time, all those sort of things that I was exposed to. And they're wonderful people doing a great job of looking after me, but I found there was something missing. So I got sent along to Keith and I actually got woken up. He literally told me the truth about a few things straight away. One, that I was toxic and that I had toxins in me and that we're going to have to explore some of that. And the other one that I had some emotional issues or things that I needed to look at and to which I wasn't very happy on the inside. On the outside I had a big smile on my face, but on the inside I was like, what? I'm angry? No, I'm not. And of course I was, but he was basically using chiropractic and applied kinesiology, which was something I'd never been exposed to. And so by using that testing in that way to get to the bottom of everything and looking at the emotional element, the chemical element, the structural element, I started to look at my whole journey as a holistic thing. And what health was, what success was, what winning was, became more of a holistic pursuit. And it literally turned my life around, from relationships coming right, from my body stripping out all of these toxins and going through some pretty trippy experiences when I got all that junk out of me. But creating an alignment in me, chemically, emotionally, structurally, that I started to race and I broke all the records the next year. I trained less, I had better energy, I had better results in my relationships and everything else, from really getting to the bottom of what things were. So it's interesting for me because what it's done is created a further study throughout my life of where else does that go to, and onto spirit and life and the essence of what everything else is about and what makes up what drives us, what really pushes us. But whenever I hit that block point now, I know to go back and find the origin of that block. And I still work with Keith after all these years. I've found my way back to him and worked with him as a chiro AK to help me actually fast track those things. So interesting case study because I literally I haven't had antibiotics or anti-inflammatories since 1993. I've had incredible health. I broke all the records. I went on to turn that into a business in the rest of my life and opened a whole lot of doors for me as well around the way I saw the world.
When it came to someone like Trevor, when I first saw him, he was actually an elite athlete, but he was broken down. He was inflamed, he was out of alignment, he was nutritionally deficient, he was stressed. So what I was able to do pretty quickly, but I also benefited from the fact that I knew what didn't work. In other words, people have been doing this and that and the inflammation hasn't gone away. They were recommending surgery in him to fix things. So what I was able to do is pretty quickly check his posture. Now we started looking at his diet, his nutritional status, what sort of antioxidants he needed. These days, we're talking when I started with Trevor, that was like 23 years ago. These days I'm much more into alkalization. Like he was breaking down. He was inflamed, but he was still trying to perform. You can't perform at a high level in a body that's nutritionally deficient, acidic, toxic. You're going to run into trouble if you're out of balance. So those are the first things I started to balance in him and started to fix. The other thing I discovered with Trevor is he was sitting on a lot of anger. So he started to talk about that, so he was able to start expressing that. Believe it or not, so people who suppress emotions are very often acidic. Why is that? Because the emotion of anger makes you acidic. As my relationship with Trevor developed, I was then invited to come along to events, and I would watch Trevor going into the event. I'd check him before he went in. I'd check him on the way and when he came out to keep balancing him. But at the same time, I was developing the ability to coach people on their emotions and their thoughts and feelings and attitude and fears and anxieties during training. I would stand next to Trevor's coach, and because we had a good relationship, I would say, tell me when he does something that's not right, or tell me when his stroke isn't right, or whatever. And the coach would say, after the 200-metre mark, he just starts losing in his right hand of his stroke. And then I would be able to do a session on that. And it would be something like a fear of Peter that came up on his inside, or a fear that he wasn't going to win. And we would do clearing on that. So he could just go, even if he was at the back of the field, it didn't matter. He still won 100%. It had nothing to do with where he was in the field. It had everything to do with himself and going 100%. Trevor actually, because he was an elite athlete, he made tremendous progress very quickly. Now, hadn't done drugs, didn't drink. His only problem was training hard and stress, toxicity, general toxicity. So he was able, because he was an elite athlete, to make changes fast. It does depend. It depends on your genetic history, it depends what you've been exposed to, it depends on the drugs you've taken, it depends on the diet you've had. But really within a few weeks, he was feeling better, he started to believe in what I was doing, the inflammation started to drop away. He realised he didn't need to have surgery, he just needed to get the inflammation out of his body.